Hello, Sarah, Jelena. It's a great pleasure to be involved in this project, so thanks a lot for the invitation. I'll start with your questions. What does higher education policy making mean to you personally? Well, it means to me a lot and on several different levels. In terms of being somebody who works in higher education as a professor, policies are very important because they shape our everyday lives, because they shape our everyday work. In terms of me personally and my involvement within higher education policy making, it's a lot of work, which is often not remunerated as it should be, and it is definitely something that, well, we all must do whether we like it or not. Have you ever written an higher education policy? If so, what approach did you take? Well, I did write several pieces of different higher education policies, mostly in relation to international relations and stuff like that. And I usually took, well, we would take a look what happens around us, we would take a look at similar institutions, we would look at things like that, and then we would just try to create something that suits our institution, our institutional cultures, and our other policies of our institutions. What are your ideas on the process through which higher education policy is created? I think it's good because it's democratic. At least in my institution, people get asked what they would like to have in their policies. Having said that, the process is also very bureaucratic. It takes quite a long time to react. Policies take a long time to be written. So sometimes, even when they're produced, they're already out of date. So, but I still think it's a good trade-off, because I do think it's important to involve all interested stakeholders within policy making, meaning not just teaching staff, but also administration and, above all, students. How should higher education policy relate to people's practice? Well, I think that it should be, the higher education should be a general part of people's practice, in a sense that it should encourage good things, it should discourage bad things, and it should actually follow what happens within the field of teaching and within the field of research. Policies are here to support us, and it's not the other way around. We are not here to have some abstract policies and then to follow these policies blindly. Policies are here to make, well, our lives easier, our lives better, and our work better and more successful. What are your thoughts on the current form in which higher education policy is published? Well, I cannot talk about other institutions, but Croatia is pretty good in this sense, meaning that all higher education policies are published on the university website. It could be better, it could be formatted nicer, it could be perhaps more visible on the website, stuff like that, but generally I like the idea that all policy papers are electronically available to everybody. Do you think more visual methods to represent higher education policy would be worth exploring? Yes and no. I do believe that generally we should be more visual about the things we write, about the way we research, and especially about the ways we teach. I also think that it would be a good idea to provide people with a certain, with other ways of reaching policies. So perhaps a video like this or perhaps some imagery would be useful. Having said that, policy papers need to be precise, they need to have certain goals, they need to have certain standards, and I think that by now it is still easiest to put all these things in writing. As we move closer towards defining a UK teaching excellence framework, what scrutiny should be applied to the ways in which higher education policy is created and presented? Well, this comes down not so much to the visual aspect of presentation or policy making, but to the question who is presented, who is not, who is involved, who is not. These days we are witnessing a strong bureaucratization of the university. We are witnessing the rise of the administrative university, and we are also witnessing the rise of, because of various accreditation policies, at least here in Croatia again, and because of all these things, we tend to do these things in a very, very, very difficult, loyal legal jargon. I think that the teaching excellence framework or any other policy document should be simple, accessible, easy to understand to people who are not perhaps educated in legal matters, and above all, that it should adequately represent all stakeholders within the educational process, meaning primarily teaching staff and students. I understand that administration has its role, but I do believe that we are here above all to teach and to do research, and therefore I believe that framework or any kind of policy paper should be written in the internet of those two things. So I believe that research and teaching, which are directly intertwined within the process, within the mission of the university, should be central parts of the teaching excellence framework. Do you have any ideas on ways in which a university might learn via visual methods? Yes, I have many ways in which the university should learn via visual methods. First of all, I firmly believe that we should stop being so text-based, and that we should orientate our work much more towards the visual. There are many reasons for that. Probably the strongest reason for that is the fact that we live in a visual world, that the network society, that digital technologies have introduced a huge amount of the visual in the way that we perceive the world, and that we should involve the visual, meaning imagery, but also video, into our everyday lives. Having said that, I'm not claiming that we should only learn via visual methods. I'm also claiming that we should do more research by visual methods, and I think that visual methods should be more represented in all aspects of our work. Now, precise ideas in which a university might learn via visual methods are very much depend on the field. I work for the University of Applied Sciences, and I'm a program director of a bachelor's course in informatics. So here, for instance, in informatics, we have students who do visual design, web design, students who are specialized in working with cameras and other visual equipment. And for them, learning and teaching for the visual will be very different than, for instance, somebody in civil engineering. We also have a school of civil engineering, and here probably things will be done in a very different way. Speaking of university, speaking of a visual university or a university which learns through the digital, I just believe that we should embrace the digital everywhere, from the level of policy documents, through the level of research, to the level of teaching. That the visual should be embedded, understood as equal as written. Now, what does it mean? I would personally allow things such as visual textbooks. I would like to see many more video tutorials or video teaching materials. I would like to see much more understanding of the image as well. And I believe that the first thing we need to do is raise awareness within the university and at all levels of the university, and that when we actually raise understanding of the importance of the visual, and when actually people learn about the visual, then they will come up with solutions and ideas particular for their courses and fields, etc., that will be suitable for them. I would not like to be prescriptive here. I believe that the visual right now is in the moment of early adoption, in the early moments of its adoption, and that we should above all work on spreading the word and teaching people what it is and how to use it. Please share any more thoughts you might wish to add. Well, I believe that this is a very interesting format. I believe that what you actually are doing with this research is very interesting. I believe that we should have more things such as more research efforts and more teaching efforts such as this in the future. And I also believe that this is something that's actually coming. So, for my last words, I would probably like to say that we spent ages, literally ages, in the era of print literacy, and now we are just at the beginning of the era of visual literacies. And universities have often been at the forefront of change, and universities have often been at the forefront of implementing radically new ideas in the society. And I believe that this is what will happen and should happen now. I don't think that the visual is new, but I do think that we are now dealing with a new understanding of the visual, which will actually dramatically change our learning, teaching, and research landscape. I also think that it will dramatically change workplace landscape in various fields, from engineering to humanities and social sciences. And I believe that that universities need to take a leading role in that. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to talk to you. I hope that you liked this. I hope that you liked what I told you. If there is any part which is unclear, or if there's anything that that you would like to ask more, just give me a shout and I'll be with you. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.